What's up, everybody? It's Hutch, and we are on Module 7. This is Lesson 1. This whole module is about equations and inequalities. Equations just mean that we have an equal sign, and inequalities means not equal. So we have our less than, our greater than, or less than equal to, greater than equal to. Those are inequalities. So we'll get into those later. This properties of equality, it's a lot of words for basically just saying something that you already know. So like if I have 4 equals 4, it says the addition property says if I add the same thing to both sides, I still end up with an equivalent statement. Subtraction property says if I subtract the same thing from both sides, I still end up with the same thing. Same thing with multiplication. If I multiply the same thing to both sides, I still end up with an equivalent statement. And if I divide by both sides and divide by 2, I still end up with an equivalent statement. Okay, and so that's the properties of equality. As long as you do the same thing to both sides, it's still going to remain equal, which is why we can do all of this math work to solve a problem. Okay, now when we were solving problems, okay, or evaluating expressions with no variables, we follow order of operations. When you're solving for a variable, though, we actually do the opposite. We have to work backwards. So this is Merg. Oh, look how sad she is because her name is Merg. How cruel. So Merg is just to remind you that when you have a missing number or you have a variable you're trying to solve for, you need to use sad Merg to make her happy again. So it's just backwards germ-DOS. Basically, you're going to take care of the most simple type of math. So think sort of like kindergarten, you learn addition and subtraction. And then maybe in first grade, second grade, you learn, actually it would be more like entering third grade, you learn multiplication, division, and then later you learn about your exponents and roots and grouping and things like that. So you're going to start simple. A couple things that I want you to do is first just separate your space here. It's going to help you stay organized. So this is something I want to see everyone doing in their notes with me. Okay, so take notice at what you have here. I have multiplication and then I have addition. Okay, so what's the most simplest thing if we're doing sad Merg? We're going to start off with taking care of any addition, subtraction, and doing the opposite. We're going to undo it. Okay, so instead of add 3, we're going to subtract 3 to both sides. You have to show it nice and lined up. We should see these like nice straight rows like this. Okay, cross that out because that's gone, and you need to write what's remaining. So we have 5x equals 13 minus 3 is 10. Okay, all right, now I have multiplication I need to undo. So we're going to divide by 5 both sides. That's opposite of multiplication is division. That cancels out, and you're left with x equals 2. When they say check the solution, this is really important to do to make sure you did it correctly. And so all you're going to do is where x is, you're just going to plug in what you got and make sure it works. Okay, and so I have a 10 here plus a 3. Yep, I'm good. 13 equals 13. It can just be a super quick check, but it's really important to make sure you did it correctly. So let's go and try example 1 now. Okay, step 1 is going to be for me to just separate my 2 sides of the equation. Okay, now I'm looking, I have multiplication here, 2 times y, and then I have a subtraction. So we're going to take care of the most simple first. If we're doing sad Merg, addition, subtraction first. So we're going to, instead of subtract 7, we're going to add 7 to both sides. Remember, our goal with this is to isolate the variable, get y by itself. Okay, so we want all the numbers on one side, those constants, and the variable on the other. All right, that crosses out. What are we left with? We have a negative 2y equals 10. Okay, now we can take care of that multiplication. Division will just be using a division bar. Don't use a division symbol like that. Use that vernaculum. So divided by 2, divided by negative 2, sorry. Cross that out, and what are you left with? You're left with y equals, and here's where you got to slow down. You have integers here, So 10 divided by negative 2, I know it's 5, but we have love to hate. If we love hating, we actually hate. So we have a negative 5. You know you have to be careful with that. All right, let's check your solution real quick. So negative 2 times negative 5 minus 7 equals 3. We have 10 minus 7. Yep, we're good. 3 equals 3, check. Okay, all right, we can pause right here. You can try this one out. All right, let's see how you did. So make sure you have your workspace separated. We're starting with the simple, add 8 to both sides. That goes away, and you're left with 5w equals, different sign, subtract. Keep the sign of the bigger number, then you'll be exact, 8765. There we go, and then we have 5 times w, so opposite would be divided by 5, both sides. And what are you left with? You're left with w equals 1. Okay. All right, and then if I check it real quick on the side, I have 5 times 1 minus 8 equals negative 3. So 5 minus 8 equals negative 3. Yes. Negative 3 equals negative 3. Check. Okay, so we're good. Okay. All right, let's go ahead with example 2. Of course, we're introducing fractions now. So draw your line down to separate the two sides. Okay. Now, something I want you to be aware of here is this right here is a positive 1/5 times r. Okay. So don't try to do subtract 1/5 r. The r is already on one side. Okay. This multiplication is not the simplest thing. You need to understand that we do have this right here. Okay. And really, this is just a positive 4 sitting here. Okay. So that's how you want to treat it. So you can see, sometimes I'll put the little plus sign there to see, oh, I have an add 4 sitting there. Okay, that's my constant. So what would the opposite be? Well, it would be subtract 4 to both sides. Now I can cross that off. Okay, and what do we have left? Well, I have my 1/5 r, my positive 1/5 r, equals, and then be careful here, negative 4 and a negative 1 is a negative 5. We're just joining them together. Okay. All right, now for this part, we have to go back to some other rules we know. So I have a 1/5 times r. Opposite is division, right? But I don't divide fractions, right? What do we do instead of dividing by fractions? Say it if you know it. Multiply by the reciprocal. If you said that, you are awesome. Here's where you're going to do that, though. You're not going to write it right here. You're going to write it on the side here when you do multiplication. So times 5 over 1 times, and I'm not going to write 5 over 1 because it's just 5. Okay, this cancels out, and I'm now left with r equals, and negative 5 times positive 5 is negative 25. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and check and make sure we're good. Another thing you can be doing for the checks, if you want, is to just be using Desmos here. So remember how you would type that in. We would just do 4 plus, and then the fraction bar, 1, and then touch the 5th. Now it's going to start giving a solution, so you have to sort of just ignore that for a second and push the arrow to the right. Times r was negative 25. But I need to make sure it says times r. So times a negative 25. And it shows it equals negative 1. So we're good there. And we're all set with our check. So I'm going to put a check to show that I checked it. But in this case, I just checked on my calculator. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and solve this one. If you want to pause and try it, you can. It's the same idea. All right, let's see how you did. Okay, so notice this is multiplication. And when we're doing SADMERG, we're doing the addition subtraction first. So here's my negative 2, or look at it as a minus 2. How would I get rid of a minus 2? Well, we would add 2 to both sides, right? Okay, this cancels out. And what are you left with? You're left with a 2/3 W equals 12. Okay. All right, now pay attention to your operations. It's multiplication. We don't divide by fractions. Okay. What do we do instead? We multiply by the good reciprocal. Okay. Okay, and remember that's going to be done right next to it. So we have 3 over 2, and what we do to one side, we do to the other side. And like we've done before, anytime I'm multiplying a fraction by a whole number, I want to turn that into a fraction over 1, okay, to do the work easily. All right, this all cancels out, okay? When you cross simplify, it turns into 1. And so we're left with W equals, and then we can go ahead and cross simplify this. Okay, anytime you're multiplying by fractions, see if you can cross simplify. I'm going to divide both those by 2, and I'm left with a 1 and a 6. And then 6 times 3, I'm going to do something here. 6 times 3 is 18. I don't need to put over 1. We're just done. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and check it now. So I'm going to go ahead and back this up. So let's see, we have a -2 plus fraction 2, touch the denominator, thirds. You can see it's making this weird thing, so I need to hit the arrow over to show that I'm going to write more. And then times W, which we said was 18. And there we go, it says 10, so we're good. Okay, so I'm going to put a check to show that I actively checked that one. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at these. This is part of the equations things, and I will tell you they are a pain in the butt, and they may not come easy to you, but that's okay. We're going to do a lot of them together for you to get comfortable with them, and over time, hopefully you'll start to see some patterns, but it's okay if it takes you longer, okay? Please don't feel like you are stupid in any way. We don't do a ton of these in your lifetime of schooling, even though we should, and so typically the average math student is just a little bit weaker at things like this. Okay. All right. So this part I'm just going to walk through real quick. It says the arithmetic method and the algebraic method. The arithmetic method just means that you're not using any variables. You're just solving the problem out. And algebra means where you're using variables. Okay. So basically, this girl's participating in a jogathon. She has this goal to raise $125. So this is her total, and I always like to identify what is the total. She's collected $80 and will receive $3 for each lap, okay? When you see the word each is a good reminder that probably you have multiplication. And when they don't tell you the number, it says $3 for each lap, this type of thing is probably the variable, okay? When you're doing the algebraic method, okay? So some things to be aware of, especially since it's saying how many laps does she need to jog. That's obviously going to be the variable. Okay. So one way is this arithmetic method, which is sort of what you typically would go to, which is just sort of figuring out the problem using just numbers and then using its solution to do something else and that kind of thing. So basically we started off with her total. Because she already collected $80, they subtracted that. And she has $45 left to earn. So then, since we know that she earns $3 for every lap, you then would take the $45 and split it up or divide by 3 to figure out that she has 15 laps to reach her goal. So it's this multi-step, no variable situation. This is the algebraic method. If you let X represent the number of laps, okay, then it might look like this, okay? So we have the total, and we just say, well, she already raised $80, okay? And she's going to get the $3 per lap, okay? And so you can just create this equation, and you can see we subtract 80 from both sides, okay? We're left with the 3x equals 45, and you just solve for x, divide by 3, and you get the same answer. So using either method, you find the answer. We want to push you towards this algebraic method of thinking, okay? So I want you to give this a shot here. We'll look at the 2 methods, okay? But that'll really be the last time we do that. Then we'll be focusing just on the algebraic. Okay, so ration, that's definitely how you pronounce that. Rashawn is saving money to buy a skateboard that costs $85. What is that? That is the total, okay? So try to find those things. He's already saved $40, and he plans to save the same amount each week. So there's that like hint word each that typically means multiply. Each week, this is probably going to be my variable. Okay. It says for 3 weeks. Oh, so there we go. So each week is multiplication, but they do tell me 3 weeks. I'm going to turn that into a number. How much should Rashawn save each week? So he plans to save the same amount. That's going to be my variable here. Okay. So solve the problem using the arithmetic method. So we're just sort of like cranking it out here. Let's see. So he's saving money. It costs $85. So this is the total cost of it, but he's already saved $40, so that's minus 40, right? So if we're doing 85 minus 40, that equals he has $45 left. Okay, he wants to save the same amount each week for 3 weeks. So we'll go ahead and divide that by 3. And so how much should he save each week? Let's go ahead and do I'm going to hit clear all here. So we have 45 divided by 3. All right, and we're at 15. So $15 per week. Okay, so that's the arithmetic method. Okay, the algebraic method, we want to let x represent the amount saved each week. Okay, so let's see what this would look like. So we have the $40 he already saved plus the 3 weeks times however much he was going to save, and that's going to equal the total of 85. Okay, and then all you have to do is solve it. So let's go ahead and write this out together and walk through this process. So this is multiplication. We're going to subtract 40 from both sides because this is a positive 40, right? Cancels out, and you're left with 3x equals 45. Same idea, divide by 3 to both sides, and you have x equals $15. Okay, so same solution, 2 different ways of doing it. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and practice some more of these. When we're doing 2-step equations, you're going to have to really think through the problem carefully and identify some of these patterns. That's really the way to handle word problems, is to look for patterns. It says a caterer is preparing a dinner for a party. She charges an initial fee of $16 and $8.25 per person. So one of the things I see here is the word per is like each and per, and that's usually meaning multiplication. Per person, and notice it says how many people, that's going to be my variable. Okay, so those are the hints that you want to look for. Okay, and so as we continue on, it says how many people can attend a dinner that costs $131.50. So this is my total that the dinner costs, and so that's something I want to be aware of as well. Okay, so as we go through, we've identified all these things, the words, the variable, and now we have an equation. Notice the total typically is going on the one side of the equal sign. Okay, and then everything else of the situation is on the left. Okay, and so as you are exploring things like this, and you know the total, here we have $16 plus $8.25 per person, and it's going to equal a total. So let's go ahead and solve this out. So instead of this positive 16, we have subtract 16 to both sides, cross that out. Okay. We can pull out our calculator here, 131.50 minus 16. And we have on this side, I'm going to draw my separation here, we have $115.50 equals $8.25 per person. And then let's go ahead and instead of multiply by P, we're going to divide 8.25 to both sides. And this is going to tell us how many people, because we're isolating the variable P. So that crosses out. Okay, and so P equals, let's see, divided by 8.25. Oops, I messed up my I need to hit enter and hit answer. 115.5 divided by 8.25, and there we go. 14 people. Okay, so that's your process as an algebraic equation. Let's go ahead and try this again. So example 3, Toya had her birthday party at the movies. It cost $27 for pizza and $8.50 per friend. Okay, all right, so here's that hint word of per. What's that mean again? Multiplication. Per friend. Friend is probably the variable. It says write and solve an equation, determine how many friends. Yep, friend is definitely the variable. If she spent $78. So which one is the total? Is it 27 for the pizza and the $8.50 per friend, or is it the $78? If you said this, you're correct. Okay, that's the total. So this is what's going to go on the right side of the equal sign. Okay, so what I want you to start to see is we have $27 for pizza and $8.50 per friend equaling this total. So that's what you sort of need to identify in your mind is what's on the one side and what's on the other side. Okay, a friend could be an F. In this case, they're saying, can you let friend be N? Okay, and so we end up with this equation right here of the total of $78 and then this situation of $27 for pizza and $8.50 per friend. So let's go ahead and solve the equation. I think we can probably do it right here instead of rewriting it. Okay, what would I do first? If you said subtract 27, you're right, because this is 850 times n, and this is a positive 27, which means I'm going to subtract 27 to both sides. That cancels out, and what are we left with? We're left with 850n equals, we have 78, make sure you clear, minus 27 equals 51. Okay, all right, now we need to isolate the variable still. So we have a times n, so we need to divide 850 on both sides. And we're left with n equals whatever that is. 51 divided by 850, and there we go, equals 6. So what is this actually? It said how many friends? So this is 6 friends. Okay, and there you go. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and try this one. If you want, this would be a good time to pause the video, try it out, and then you can walk through it with me. Or if you guys just want to follow along, that's fine too. It's up to you. All right, Cassidy went to a football game with some of her friends. The tickets cost $6.50 each. Okay, so again, each is my hint of multiplication. So I'm multiplying $6.50 per ticket. Okay, and they spent $7.50 on snacks. So it's a multi-thing that occurred. Notice this, the total amount paid was $63. So there's my total. And what have I been telling you? I've been telling you that that total goes on the right side of the equation. Okay, so write and solve an equation to determine the number of people, they want you to use P, that went to the game. Okay, so here we go. So tickets were $6.50 per ticket, which is also a person, right? Okay, which we're using P for. And they spent $17.50 on snacks as a group, not each person. Otherwise, you would have to do the $17.50 times how many people also. So we're just doing the $17.50. Okay. All right. So now we've created our equation and we can go ahead and solve. So separate your sides. Okay. Is step one. I want everyone doing that. And then look, we have our multiplication. We have our addition. So we're going to subtract and do the opposite. Minus $17.50. This goes right below. That cancels out. And what are you left with? You're left with 650p equals whatever this is. You can be doing it on your calculator too. 63 minus 1750. And we have 4550. Okay, and now how do I isolate the variable? Well, I have a times p, so I'm going to divide instead. That's not a fraction, so I don't need to multiply by reciprocals. You do have to divide by both sides. Okay, that cancels out, and we're left with how many tickets or how many people. So let's see. I'm going to hit enter, and then I can hit answer, divided by 6.5. That's how you would do that on the Desmos calculator. And so we're left with 7 people that went to the game. And there we go. All right, example 4, and then to apply. I know this is a lot, especially because word problems are a little bit tricky sometimes, but keep hanging in there. You're doing well. All right, here we go. Diego's aquarium contains 30½ gallons of water. He drains the water at a rate of 5 gallons per minute for cleaning. So right away, let's look at some of those hints, right? 5 gallons per minute. Per means multiply. Minute is probably going to be my variable, right? But let's see. Write and solve an equation to determine in how many minutes the amount of water will reach 10½ gallons. Okay. And so our goal is to reach 10½ So this is our final total. Don't get tricked that this happens to be a bigger number. Okay. Our final situation is our final number. So you can see what they did here. We started at 30½ gallons, and we're subtracting the 5 gallons per minute to equal the 10½ gallons. So you have to sort of think through what's going on in the story. They want M to represent minutes, which is what I guess they would do. And there's the equation we have as a fraction. So let's go ahead and solve this equation. I think we can probably fit it in right here. Okay. All right, so let's look at what to do first here. Okay. We have a 30½ minus 5m, but that's 5 times m. And when we're solving for a variable, remember we do the addition subtraction first. And I know it says minus 5n, but that's basically just saying a negative 5 times m. Okay, and we're not doing the multiplication first. The first thing is going to be taking care of this constant by itself. So it's another thing to look at is don't deal with the variable stuff. Save that for the end. Deal with this constant. So I have a positive 30½ okay, or a positive 30.5, okay, and so I would do the opposite and subtract 30.5 to both sides. Okay, so this, if I treat it as 10.5, this cancels out. What are we left with? We have a negative 5 times m equals, and then let's sort of think through this here. Okay, so let's grab the calculator. I'm going to hit clear, and we have 10.5 minus 30.5, and we're left with a negative 20. Okay, different sign subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. All right, now let's finish it off. We have a negative 5 times n, so divided by negative 5 to both sides. Okay, division property of equality. This cancels out, and what are we left with? Tells us how many minutes it will take to drain. Negative 20 divided by a negative 5. Hate to hate, I actually love, and we end up with 4 minutes. Okay, and there you go. So just some other examples. All right, so here's this one to go ahead and try. So we have the check. Amelia started with $54 and spent $6 each day at camp. She has $18 left. Okay, so here's what she started with. This is what she spent. Oh, I know what spent means, right? Doesn't mean subtract. $6 each day. There's another keyword. What did we say each or per means? Multiply. Each day is probably our variable. Okay, and then she has 18 left at the end. So that's our total at the end. So something to identify. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and see if we can write the equation out. They do want us to use D for days. So we start with $54, and then what happens? We spend $6 per day. Be careful when you write your D that it doesn't look like something else weird. Okay, and she's finishes with a total of 18. So there's your equation. Let's go ahead and solve it. All right, what do we do first? Okay, remember, stay away from the variable first. That's just a negative 6 times D. We want to take care of this plus 54 over here. So how would we do that? Subtract 54 on both sides. Cross that out. What are we left with? A negative 6 times D equals 18 minus 54. So different sign, subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number, then you'll be exact. Or you can just write 18 minus 54, or 18 plus a negative 54, same thing, and we're left with negative 36. Okay, all right, now let's get rid of this negative 6 times d. Do the opposite, divided by negative 6, divided by negative 6. This cancels out, and we're left with d equals 6 times 6 is 36, and negative divided by a negative is a positive. So how many days? 6 days. And there we go. So let's go ahead and head to the practice homework. So 7-1 practice. Okay. You can see we have some word problems, and you have 2 problems for the apply, just like we did as well. Okay. So let's go ahead and walk through some of these together as a review. Okay. We'll do 1, 2, and 5 with me. Yours will be 2, 3, and 6. Okay, so we're solving for a variable. Step 1, remember, we're drawing our line like this. Okay, and then backwards order of operations. So SAD-MERG. Okay, addition, subtraction first. Subtract 2 from both sides. And so we have 15 on this side and 5x here. And then after that, divide both sides by 5. And you're left with x equals 3. Okay, do your check real quick. If it's simple, you can just sort of look at it over there. 15 plus 2 is 17. Yep, good. Okay, all right, let's check number 4. Okay, draw your line going down. Okay, so this is multiplication. I'm going to take care of my addition subtraction first. So add 11.2 to both sides. So you have to write it. Cross that out, and what are you left with? We're left with 2x on this side, and 11.2 plus 3.8, 11, 12, 13, 14, and we have 15. All right, let's just double check that. 3.8 plus 11.2, yep, is 15. Okay, I was just surprised I didn't end up with a nice even number. So that's double checking it. Now we have 2 times x, so divide 2 on both sides. And we have x equals, and that'll be 7.5. Okay, so double check and make sure it works, especially with this one. So we need this to equal 3.8. So I'm going to hit clear, and I'm going to do 2 times 7.5 minus the 11.2. Yep, and it equals 3.8. So we checked it, and we're good. All right, let's go ahead and do number 5 together. Separate your sides here. Okay. SAD-MERG, make her happy. This is a positive 2. So remember, we're going to do subtract 2 to both sides. Okay. This cancels out, and what are you left with? Well, you're left with a positive 16x equals negative 4, and a negative 2 is a negative 6, so be careful with that. All right, now I have a 16 times x. How do I get rid of that? Well, we divide by 16, but we don't divide by fractions, right? We multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by 6 over 1, multiply by 6 over 1. I can just keep it 6. That cancels out, and we are left with x equals 36. Is it positive or negative? I hate to love. If you hate loving, you hate. Negative times positive is a negative. All right, check and make sure it works. So this is where Desmos is going to be nice for you. So we have 1/6 of 36 plus 2, and it's got to equal negative 4. So 2 plus the fraction 1/6 arrow over times x is a negative 36, and yep, it equals negative 4. We're good. Check. All right, so you have 2, 3, and 6 to do on your own. Use your partner if you need some help with that. All right, let's go ahead and do some of these word problems. Remember, we're looking for those patterns of where is the total and where is the each or per and that kind of thing. I'll do 7 and 8 with you, and then you have 8 and 10 for yourself. Easton went to a concert with some of his friends. The tickets cost this much each. That's my multiplication hint. And they spent a total of $15 on parking as a group. So those are sort of like my costs for the one side of the equation. The total they spent is this, and I know total goes on the right side of the equals. So I think I'm ready to go with this equation. So I'm going to put my total over here first, and then what was the situation? Okay, well, we have tickets. So what variable should we use for tickets? Probably T, right? So $29.50 per ticket, that's times T, plus as a group, they spent $15 on parking. So we have that. Okay, now we can go ahead and solve. Okay, so let's draw our line down like we normally would. Subtract 15 on both sides. That cancels out, and we have $29.50 per ticket equals 133 minus 15 is 118. Okay, now I have a multiplication problem, so I have to divide $29.50 to both sides. Okay, if you run out of space like this, you could either shrink it up, which is actually probably what I would prefer you to do, rather than write other places. So let's get in the habit of just shrink it up if you need. Okay, cancels out. Tickets equals, I'm going to hit enter so I can hit the answer button. Answer divided by 29.50, and it equals a nice number of 4. So how many people went to the concert? 4 people. If it wasn't a whole number, you know you messed up because it's people and you can't cut them in half. That's called murder. All right, so there we go, 4 people, and you're good. If you want to check and make sure you're correct, you would just plug that in. The 29.50 times 4 plus 15, and we got 133. So I checked, and we're good. Okay. All right, let's do the fraction one with hot air balloon. A hot air balloon is at an altitude of 101/5 yards. So that's just current height. It's decreasing. Okay, I know decreasing means subtracting. This much every minute. This is like saying each minute or per. So I know that's my multiplication. And this is probably my variable, right? Per minute. So notice the patterns that we can see here. That's why I know these are annoying to do, but I want you to see the constant patterns that exist. Determine the number of minutes it'll take the balloon to reach a final total altitude of 57 yards. Okay. All right. So I know the total goes on the right, 57. Okay. And then what is the situation? Well, we're starting at 100. Oh, I know 1/5 is 0.2. So I'm just going to do 0.2. And then it decreases 10. And if 1/5 is 0.2, 2, 4, 6, 8, this is 0.8. So 10.8 yards per minute. So that's times m. Okay. So we're subtracting that much per minute from the original, and we're going to end up at 57. So that's the process of creating your equation. Let's go ahead and draw your line down, and I already know I probably need to be moving this and shrinking it up a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that too. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and work through the problem. So I'm going to do the opposite of the subtract and add 10.8 to both sides. That cancels out. Oh, sorry. Nope. Don't get tricked. That's your variable. That's your times m. Okay, so you can see how easy it is if you're being speedy like I was being. Okay, I have a positive 100.2, so let's subtract 100.2 to both sides. Okay, and then that goes away. What are you left with? We're left with a negative 10.8 times m equals whatever this is. So we have 57 minus 100.2 is negative 43.2. So you can see you got to take your time and be careful with this. All right, we have multiplication, so we're going to do the division to cancel that out. Crosses that out, and what are we left with? How many minutes will it take? Let's go ahead and do this division. So I'm going to hit answer, or hit enter, and then hit answer divided by 10.8, which I actually know is negative. So let's go ahead and put in the negative here too. There we go. So we end up with a positive 4 minutes. Okay. And you're all set. So how many minutes will it take the balloon to reach? 4 minutes. Okay. And there you go. So you can try that out with 8 and 10. Let's go ahead and look at number 11 together. The table shows the cost of a membership and fruit baskets at a discount warehouse club. She paid a total, okay, so they're telling us the total for her annual membership fee and several fruit baskets as a gift for her coworkers. Solve the equation. Oh, they're just telling us to flat out solve the equation to find the number of baskets. So that's pretty easy. So let's go ahead and just set it up. We have 15x plus 30 equals 105. I can handle this, right? Subtract 30 to both sides. What do we end up with? 15x equals 30. 100 minus 30 would be 70, so we're at 75. Divided by 15 on both sides. Cross it out. All right, number of fruit baskets. Clear this out. 75 divided by 15. That is 5 fruit baskets. And there we go.